They won't understand.
It encompasses everything that's wrong with politics in this country, I think.
We will lose half the county in the next 100 years.
Politics of division, politics of hate.
It's a dodgy one, that one is.
So Novara Media has decided to come to Lincolnshire today to find out whether people here feel forgotten by the Westminster elite, people in politics, people in legacy media, and whether that's got anything to do with why this has become such an important heartland for reform. Reform candidate for Greater Lincolnshire Metro Mayor, the first one ever, Andrea Jenkins, I was pretty sure that she was going to win. And in May, in the locals, she did win, and the county council flipped to reform control. Lincolnshire as a county is massive, it's diverse, it's the second biggest county in the UK, and yet, you know, when I was at university, which is probably longer ago than I'd like it to be now, no one knew where I was from. They were like, "Where are you from?" I said, "Lincoln." And they said, "Where's that?" And I said, "Lincolnshire," and no one had heard of it. Behind me is Lincoln Cathedral, and it is so much better than York Minster, and that is a regional beef that I will take to the grave. Yeah, there's some real, there's a real sense of stillness, apart from this pigeon who is absolutely living his best life. So we're going to walk through the Bailgate, down Steep Hill and into town. We're going to start speaking to some people around there. I'd really like it if people had some spicy things to say. Hi sir, are you from Lincoln?
Nope.
Do you live in Lincoln, sir?
Far too sexy to be interviewed.
Come on, talk to us. I'm hungry. What do you think of Lincoln? What do you think it needs?
More Gregs.
More Gregs.
I don't know.
We've just walked past two.
Yeah, there's loads.
How would you sum it up, Lincoln?
Deteriorating rapidly.
What attracted you to reform over Labour or a Tory? Because the Tories came second.
They did, yeah, and I've always been a Tory voter, but I think it was just a change. You know, we're ready for a change, and I like some of their policies, I like them, you know, and the only person that came round our village was the Reform candidate, and she came to door.
Really?
Yeah, and she was such a lovely girl, and not pushy, and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to vote for them. They've bothered to come round, not just a leaflet through the door. I've lived in Rugby 44 years, and that's the first time I've ever had anybody come to the door.
No.
Yeah.
I would like there to be less immigration.
Okay.
And I would like the government to do it quickly. I know there are ways and means of doing it, and I know there are ways and means of it appearing to be nasty and selfish. And yes, some of it is. But all in all, there are too many of us here.
So do you think immigration has changed Lincoln?
Yeah.
And how would you...
You walk up Lincoln High Street, it's the third or fourth language you hear, English, not first. And it's supposed to be in England. And they don't integrate, they're all in their own enclaves.
And that's in Lincoln?
That's in Lincoln.
And what about the wider county?
The wider county is going the same way, because you've got people like Serco being paid a fortune to hire as immigrants, and so they're going to find the cheapest place they can so they make more money.
What do you think of reform?
I don't really know. It is what it is. I mean, I'm personally not reform. I wouldn't vote. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't really vote. If I'm honest, it's not really. It interests me, but I think voting nowadays isn't really. There's not really a point to it.
Immigration as such, it depends. It depends on whether people are coming here just to have a good time, or whether they're coming here to work and make money and have a family and lead a nicer life when they have wherever they come from.
What did you used to vote before? Before reformers that existed?
I never voted.
You didn't used to vote before that?
No.
Okay.
Do you vote now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and reform has got...
Well, it's got so bad.
It's the first time you voted was for reform?
Yeah.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Well, things are getting so bad. I mean, when you're getting 1,000 immigrants across on dinghies, we're paying the French 500 million a year to stop them, and they can't go in the water because it's own more than ankle deep, so they can't do anything. So they just wave them off.
But we were walking around this beautiful historic city, which I'm from, and it all looks gorgeous. It doesn't look overcrowded. We've still got lots of great shops. Businesses seem to be doing
There's
quite
not a lot
nicely.
of great shops. You go down the high street, St Mark's, it's basically shut off.
Hi, Digger. Oh, you're so beautiful.
Reform is just it's a fad.
Oh, you reckon it's flash in the pan?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fad. It's a fad. Farage. I mean, if you look at his entourage, I mean, they're all gangsters.
Do you think?
Yeah, have you not seen them? You've not seen them when they're on TV and all this is all sort of back in. Oh, no, can't be seen. I'm still wanted. I can't be.
Maybe they're trying to protect him from another milkshake.
Or an egg.
Or an egg, yeah. They're there to chop it out of the air. What do you think it needs, Lincoln?
I don't know. Look at the floors. It needs a good clear up. Look at all the chewing gum around. I think it needs a good clean up. Yeah, it's totally changed, isn't it? And if local businesses aren't supporting local people, then there's going to be no money in the system to pay for things,
What do you do?
Window cleaner.
Lovely.
35 years.
Nice one.
You want to keep it local and you want it to look nice. If you've got a national guy and someone chucks kebab up the window, he ain't going to walk past and get it off for him. It's going to look like that for the week and it's going to look awful, isn't it?
So, are you a Tory voter?
Voted Labour last time.
Did you? How do you feel about it now?
Well, I didn't tell my wife.
What would she have said?
Unrepeatable.
Unrepeatable. Okay, we're arriving now at the Lincolnshire show. This is not just an opportunity for me to pet loads of really cute farm animals and then try and rescue them from the meat industry. That is not what's happening here. I'm being such a serious journalist and I need to speak to people about the agricultural heritage of this county, which is incredibly important. The vegan in me wants to open all these cages, right about now. Why would you eat these gorgeous things? How many of these beautiful cows are yours?
So we've got 9 animals here today and supporting the Lincolnshire show.
Rural life is a really important part of living here. How do you think it's changed over the years?
Rural life is changing. It's becoming much harder. Mental health is a huge issue within farming and rural life. Far harder to make a profit. Input costs spiralling and loneliness. Rural life, it's not the community. Going back to sort of the 40s, 50s, 60s, you used your village to get your harvesting, you used your village for all different aspects of farming, and now most people farm day to day completely on their own.
One of the main things with Lincolnshire is it hasn't got a motorway going through it, or a main train line really, has it? It is on the edge. And as things are going, I think that's probably a good thing.
Why so?
Because you can retain more of your rural life. And I mean, being brought up like I was, I'm all for that.
You have to be born into this industry. And like Mrs. Brown just said, I'm the same. I'm the 5th generation. The wife's the 4th generation on a farm. That's my son there, so he'll be the 6th generation, on my side of the family. But you have to be born into this.
Why has that changed? Where has the village gone?
Money, jobs, technology, tractors, more horsepower. You can do a job that maybe 2 or 3 people needed to do before.
A lot of people can't understand farming life. We're up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It can be 10 o'clock at night when we go to bed. We can do, 48 hours a week. We could do that in 3 days. There's a lot of young people that'd like to get into it, but can't. But
why can't they?
Because the inheritance, a lot of the family farms, would probably have to be sold now because of the inheritance tax, or sell half of the farm Well, you want to farm 200 or 300 acre to run a family. Well, if they have to sell half of it, it's only 150 acres. Well, you struggle to make a living on it.
The inheritance tax bill that will come to your farm, you won't be able to carry on farming.
Wow, so it's going to put farmers out of business.
It will put hundreds of farmers out of business, thousands of farmers out of business, and investors will buy that land.
So are a lot of farms like worth more than £1 million?
A very, very small minority of farms are worth less than £1 million.
And that's because of the expense of the machinery, the land itself?
Yeah. The land is worth so much, but without the land, we cannot farm. So if we have to sell land to pay our inheritance tax bill, we can't farm anymore. So we're not farmers anymore.
Do you think there's anyone in Westminster in politics who does have the interests of farmers?
I'm not answering that one. Because yes, there is people in Westminster who want to get England back to how it should be, producing food for the English.
I'm interested that you don't want to say who you like in Westminster.
No, I'm not telling you.
Why not?
No,
I'm not going to judge you.
I don't talk about that sort of politics.
Oh, that's fair.
We've all got our own verdict on that one. But I think if this party does stop in much longer, you'll see a lot of farmers give up.
Don't think Labour's been good for...
In fact, Labour's been no good for farming at all.
What about Tories? They had 15 years.
They weren't much better. They were better than Labour, but they weren't a lot better.
We've just had local elections in Lincolnshire. We've had Reform take the county council. We've got a Reform mayor as well. Were you surprised?
Not really.
No.
The UK wants change. And I think Reform are showing those signs that they're going to make change. Whether that's good or bad, I'm not sure yet.
I will tell you, I think if anybody's going to do the country any good, I think it'd be Reform. I think Farage has got his head screwed on and he's a countryside man.
I mean, you need a fairer deal for a lot of people, to be honest, not just the farmers. I mean, there was a bit on the news this morning, this HS2 that they've spent all this money on, is now not going to be finished till, is it 2033?
33, yeah.
And it's shorter than they said it was going to be.
Yeah.
Isn't it going to stop at Birmingham now?
Stop at Birmingham. And I mean, that was going to knock only a matter of minutes off the existing service. But for what purpose? They said it was for business. But all business is done online now, and you don't have to go to meetings. You can all do it all online. So why do you need a very expensive fast train service?
That money could have been spent in this country better than they've spent it.
What would you have done with it? Where do you want it to go?
Well, it could have, education, national health, the old folk in this country. No disrespect to Mary. But the old folk in this country, there's a lot of kids starving in this country. What could have done with that money instead of being 2 minutes bloody quicker from Birmingham to London?
There's a lot of child poverty in Lincolnshire.
Yeah, there's a lot of child poverty about. We've got a friend who works in a school, and she said in the last 12 months, the breakfast club and the evening meal club at night time's gone through the roof. So it could have been spent a lot better.
Do you think Reform is bothered about poverty?
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't. It's a dodgy one, that one is.
So obviously Lincolnshire quite a rural county.
Yes.
What do you think are the biggest threats to rural life? That can be either people who make their living off the land or, the land and the environment itself. So
I think for Lincolnshire, it's climate change. So large swathes, if the sea level rises, North Sea level rises, there's large swathes of the east of the county which may well become flooded much more regularly. The central part of the county and heading towards the west, very, very dry. We've had really dry spring this year, which is now starting to impact on crops. I don't know whether you've noticed, but maize crops are very small at the moment. They should be up to person heights now. So I think that's going to be our biggest threat.
This is becoming like a bit of a reform county with the mayor and the county council. One of their things is like scrapping net zero, and it's something they make a lot of noise about.
I find that really difficult. I think we should be doing as much as we can to mitigate our impact on the planet, and we should be all trying to get to net zero. And if we did it in the right way, it will create jobs and it will create livelihoods for people, in the rural communities and everything. You can't just blanket scrap things. I think that, so this is my personal opinion. I think we really need to be more careful about what we're saying and not lump everything together. It's much more nuanced than anyone is. We're very polarised in our political systems at the moment. You can't be polarised. It's very grey. There are areas in the middle, and we have to work together on all of this.
I agree with that. And probably the costs of not getting to net zero, as we know, are going to be...
They will be horrendous. And so this flooding that I've talked about, us not getting to net zero, we will lose half the county in the next 100 years.
Am I the owl's baby or am I the owl's stomach? What do you reckon?
Lincolnshire as a county produces 12% of the nation's food overall, and 30% of the UK vegetables come from Lincolnshire. We're just really up against it at the minute. We've got inheritance tax problems that they're now imposing on us and making us pay the inheritance tax after next April. And it really quite infuriates us as an industry when you see on social media people saying to farmers, pay your tax and keep quiet and all that. They don't realise that the margins that we are producing food to are so small, we're not making the profits to be able to pay the tax. So when we start a crop, when we plant a crop in the ground, we will put that crop in the ground. We won't have a clue how much that's going to cost us. We won't have a clue how many we're going to produce at the end of the year or harvest. And we won't have a clue how much we're going to sell that produce for. How many industries would start producing something with all those uncertainties? And this is the problem with agriculture, that there are so many variables that we really are up against it.
What would you say to someone who was like, okay, but the tax is only on the assets above 1 million? 1 million sounds like a lot of money.
Right, I can show that tractor there will be about £220,000 for one tractor. The sprayer there, one of those sprayers there, £250,000. This is why £1 million is an absolute waste of time. And all the government are doing is protecting the lifestyle buyers that live in London or work in London during the week on a well-paid job, and they might have a lovely home out in the countryside, 10 acres of grass. They're protecting those people, not the true family farm.
So one of the questions we've been sort of asking people throughout the day is, because obviously we just had a local election, County Council flipped to reform, we've got our first Metro Mayor for Greater Lincolnshire, a reform mayor. Asking people how they feel about that, really, whether they think that reform is going to be good for Lincolnshire, whether it's got much to offer, or whether people are just pretty sick of the two main parties and want to...
I think it's exactly what you said. People are sick of the two main parties. That's why Reform have got in with the big majority that they have in the local elections and nationally all around. And only time will tell what they're like, but they're saying the right things at the minute. But we'll just have to see. But as we all know, Boris Johnson has said things in the past that hasn't happened. And at the NFU conference 2 years ago, Keir Starmer stood up and he said that vote for us, we're going to protect you. When a farm's gone, it's gone. They can't lay straight in bed. And at the minute, how can they stand there and say one thing and do another?
I'm standing in the shade of a massive tractor, and conversation with the NFU guy, actually fascinating. Just highlights how sort of little understanding there is in the UK about how our food is grown, who produces it, what the margins are, what the pressures are on farmers. So this is kind of the end of our day at Lincolnshire County Show. We've got a whole host of other topics to talk about come tomorrow when we'll be in Scunthorpe and then Skegness. It's definitely not the end of our Lincolnshire adventure. But for now, there's nothing else to do but to get me a cold drink because I'm absolutely wilting, and to enjoy the Shetland Pony Grand National, which is what we all came here to really see.
Good morning, Harriet.
We're going to Scunthorpe, and our train is like an hour and a half long with a change in beautiful Barnaby. We're here in Scunthorpe now. It is significantly more industrial looking than Lincoln. Walking past quite a lot of boarded up houses that need redoing. So we're walking to Frodingham Road now. So we've got a big Bangladeshi community here. People who came over to work in the steelworks in the 60s and have been part of Scunthorpe's landscape and communities ever since. For the past couple of decades, Muslims in Britain have been really at the sharp end of this far-right culture war, demonised and blamed for a lot of problems in British society. What does this mean in a county that has, at least on a local elections and Metro Mayor level, expressed discontent about migration, about multiculturalism?
Andrea Jenkins, your new mayor for Greater Lincolnshire, she said in her victory speech today that asylum seekers should be housed in tents. Isn't that now a Reform Party policy?
No, I'm much harder line than that. They should be deported.
What does that mean for the diverse communities who are part of the fabric of Lincolnshire? How would you respond to someone who would maybe say that multiculturalism and that sort of melting pot feeling in the UK, that it's failed?
I don't think it has failed, really. If you look at the history of the UK, especially after the Second World War, how different communities from all over the world came to England and were invited by the UK to come to England to rebuild England and rebuild Britain after the Second World War. If that did not happen, then I don't think the UK would be enjoying this prosperity that it has now.
How much has Scunthorpe changed since you were a child?
When I was going to secondary school, there was a lot of racism at that particular time. And I remember just up on one of the main roads, I've had a beer bottle on my head poured down me. So yeah, so sometimes I say, well, yeah, it's the very street we're sitting here now. We can walk quite confidently. Racism has dropped a lot comparatively to 30 years ago.
So we've just had a set of local elections and the County Council of Lincolnshire did go to reform, and Greater Lincolnshire elected its first Metro Mayor, also reform. How did you feel? Were you surprised?
I wasn't really surprised because the rhetoric of reform is quite standard. The rhetoric of just politics of division, politics of hate and misinformation, really. And when people see that the main parties or the mainstream political narrative is not going their way, then that creates a vacuum. So Reform has just filled that vacuum. The recent Reform MP, on her maiden question, she could have asked any question, but she chose to bring up the point of the burqa ban. If you get down to the detail, you will see that these are not major issues for the British people.
What was the impact of last summer's Southport riots on the community in Scunthorpe?
Some of the community members got in touch with people like myself and others and saying, well, we need to come together. And so we were stood on this particular road, and there were hundreds of people, and the most interesting part was most were British white. So we as a community within this area, we all stood together.
I think in Scunthorpe we're very proud that we've got such a peaceful harmony
I'm not saying there isn't any, issues, but we have issues, like every other town, city, whatever. But in something Scunthorpe, we've got more in common than they divide us.
Last year when we had the race riots because of the Stockport incident, you did not find that in the Scunthorpe and North Lincolnshire. You found that in Hull and other places, but in Scunthorpe you found it very peaceful. Communities actually came out on that day on the streets, and they were protecting each other's places of worship.
We work so hard to build community relation, and it's like you plant a seed. Today, it takes maybe 20 years by the time it's grown and is giving fruit and whatever, maybe less sometimes, but it's bigger trees. But if you want to cut it, it just takes 5 minutes to all the hard work is gone.
What's this behind us, Abid?
I'll let you read it. It says it all. I think I clearly remember the day. I'm showing many moons ago. I'm showing my age now. I won't tell you how old I am, but that's when Her Majesty the Queen visited the Scunthorpe Islamic Centre. We made history, so we feel very, very proud.
Honestly, that could be the pride and love for the royal family that somebody like my grandma has. She is Novara Media's second oldest supporter. Shout out to Grandma Mary. I wish we'd interviewed her. Can't relate, not a royalist myself. Get rid of a lot of them. We're about to go to the Steelworks. We're going to speak about how Reform managed to capitalise on the very near closing of the last steelworks in the UK capable of producing virgin steel.
Well, the town grew around the steel industry, not the other way around. If the steelworks in Scunthorpe were to disappear, the town would probably die along with it. It's as plain and simple as that.
I think that the image that was sort of in people's minds at the time of the recent steel crisis in sort of March, April time of this year was of Nigel Farage and Reform colleagues in front of a blast furnace in their hard hats and their high vis saying, nationalise British steel.
You can probably tell by the expression on my face I'm not Mr Farage's biggest fan.
Tell us about it.
We had no idea he was coming on site. He turned up with Richard Tice and his little entourage. I went for a walk around the blast furnaces and then disappeared, shouting for nationalisation, which we didn't disagree with. We've been shouting for it for the last 4, 5, 6 years. But then Richard Tice turned up on Bank Holiday Friday, Good Friday, in a London cab in Reform livery, leaning out the window shouting "Taxi for Jingye" in the lay-by outside our main admin building. That's private land. They did it knowing they were trespassing and knowing that nobody would catch them because it was bank holiday. It was a really underhanded, gutter politics tactic. I was absolutely furious when I saw it. They've done nothing to help the steel industry, absolutely nothing. They're simply using it to gain favour with voters. Look what we've done, look what we've said. Well, I'm sorry, but they've done nothing, absolutely nothing. We did this, the unions did this alongside our UK management and the government. We worked together, and that's the only way we were ever going to do it, by working together.
What would you say to people who are watching this and are like, okay, I don't see how a resurgence in steelmaking and manufacturing, how that can go hand in hand with a clean, green energy transition and climate concerns?
Yeah, I don't accept that. I don't believe that. We can make this a green industry, but again, it's been neglected. There is technology out there that we can use. Everybody's aware of the electric arc that was talked about for Scunthorpe and is currently being planned for Port Talbot in South Wales. But there are other ways to turn a steel industry green. If you look at Sweden, for example, in Sweden they're making hydrogen steel. So instead of using coke and coal, they're using hydrogen. It's perfectly clean. We've not invested in these technologies. If we had done, British Steel and the UK steel industry would be in a much better position than it is now.
So just going back a bit to Reform, do you feel a bit of a swelling of support within union members?
Yeah.
In this workplace?
I know for a fact we have union members that are Reform supporters. I suspect I've even got union reps that are Reform supporters. And I'll not be the only workplace where that's the case. Again, they're ticking the boxes and hitting all the buttons that They know are sensitive issues with the electorate, with working people. And people will respond to that. We've seen the same thing in America. Trump does exactly the same. You know, what Farage is doing is straight out of the Trump playbook. And he's not going to deliver what he says he's going to deliver. I mean, open the blast furnaces again at Port Talbot? Really? Open the coal mines again? Really? It's never going to happen. It's never, ever going to happen. For a start, the coal in this country is no good for the UK steel industry. It's too high in sulphur content. And the furnaces in Port Talbot are done. They're finished. They're not going to be able to restart them, not without significant sums of money. And I'm talking probably £200 million per furnace to get them up and running again. Nobody's going to pile that much into a furnace. And the other side of the coin is that we are seeing now that customers are pushing for greener steel. Open as many blast furnaces as you like, Nigel, but if it's not making green steel, customers aren't going to want it. So it's just something he says to get people on side. He's not going to deliver it. He can't deliver it. He encompasses everything that's wrong with politics in this country, I think. And I think he's also given a platform for bigotry and racism to shout from. I do think that Farage, again, he's tickled that soft underbelly of racism and focused on migrants and knowing that that's a sensitive issue with a certain population, and he's pickled away at it, and it's expanded and it's grown legs, and it's just got really, really dangerous, I think, now. There's an awful lot of racism, an awful lot of hatred in this country now that I've never seen in my lifetime.
Why do you think that's resonating with more voters?
It's because of the way it's been addressed by all political parties to do with they're an easy hit, migrants. You know, your school system's crumbling. Well, it's because we've got migrants here. They're taking up your school places. Well, what about hospitals? Well, they're taking up hospital beds. They're not. This is an absolute fallacy. It's complete and utter rubbish. The number of illegal migrants coming into this country is minuscule compared to the number of legal migrants. But when you look at the reasons why we've not got enough houses, we've not got enough hospital beds, we've not got enough school places, it's nothing to do with migrants. It's to do with lack of investment. Everything comes back to the UK not investing. We have not invested. One government after another, and I include Labour in this as well, Tony Blair's era. We have not invested in the UK. We've just made do with what we've got. And as a result of that, we're in the pickle where the NHS is crumbling around their ears. We've got schools that are literally falling apart. It's just diabolical and disgraceful the way successive governments have allowed this country to just fall apart and use migrants as the fall guy, when it's nothing to do with them. If we want to stop migrants coming here, well, stop bombing their houses. You know, if we don't do it ourselves, we supply the weapons to other countries to do it. You know, just stop the wars. But they won't, because there's money in war. Wherever there's money in war, there'll always be war. And I think that's quite sad that we're living in an age where that's the case, where people want wars because they make money out of it. That's really, really sad.
There are no insurmountable problems here. There are things that can be fixed with investment. There really isn't a conflict of interest between, you know, our green energy goals, our need for a just transition to protect the climate, and having a flourishing and viable British steel industry. We just need a bit of investment and a bit of imagination. It is a pretty real prospect that Reform could get 20 odd MPs at the next general election. We could have a hung parliament with Reform making a really important king-making role within that. We could have Farage as Prime Minister. It is absolutely possible. We have to face that. It comes back to the failure of both of the big parties in offering this failed economic model that doesn't work for the majority of people in the UK. And not only does that economic model not work for the majority of people, it actively harms them. It harms their prospects, it harms their families, it harms their health. So we're on the train now from Scunthorpe. We have to actually go to Yorkshire to get to another part of Lincolnshire, Doncaster, then to Grantham, and then to Skegness. And because the train was about 5 minutes late, we've got a 3-minute transfer window on one of our changes. So the Skegness ending part of our journey might actually be in jeopardy. So you might not see the seaside. Oh no, there's one over there. We're running. Oh, this one's delayed. Brilliant. Delay's working in our favour this time round. We're on train 2. Thank you very much to the LNER service. We really haven't got loads of time here. I think it's going to be 3 different rail providers by the end of it. All within the same county. And no alternatives unless you drive. So we are on the final train, the 3rd leg of our journey from Scunthorpe to Skegness. It used to be part of one of the safest Tory seats in the country, Boston and Skegness, but it's had a Reform MP for nearly a year now. That's Richard Tice. He's Reform's deputy leader. If we want to peek into a crystal ball and have a look at the future of what Greater Lincolnshire might be like under Jenkins, under Reform, this constituency in Skegness is a really good place to start.
You all right, Oscar? How you doing? You all right, buddy? Yeah, I'm good. Crime Watch.
Do you think that politicians in Westminster or legacy media in London, do you think they understand places like Skegness?
No. It's a different bottle of, what is it? What do they say? Kettle of fish. Yeah. That's the one. I was trying to get my words out. You know, being filmed and stuff can get a bit nerve-wracking. They won't understand. They have their own ways of doing things. London and Skegness are 2 different things altogether. They need to they need to take a visit here.
Do you think that politicians in like Westminster and
they
media in London?
They don't care. As I said, I speak as a Londoner, I don't think they care. Once you get past North London, further up, wasting money on that HS2 thing, you know. They don't care about these places. They don't care.
I didn't even have to ask the question for you to answer that.
Yeah, they don't care what that is. That's an enormous amount of money just to save off, 5-10 minutes or whatever it was on a journey.
Did you grow up in Skeg?
Yeah, so I've lived here my whole life. So I'm nearly 20 now. So I've lived here for as long as I can remember.
Do you think you'll stay?
No.
How come?
There's just no opportunity. So I'm going to university in September to become a midwife. I don't really want to work out of Boston because it's just so small. Like there's no, if you want to do big things in life, you don't stay in Skeg.
Do you think there's a lack of understanding of places like Skegness in Lincolnshire?
Snobbery.
Lack of understanding.
Well, I think there's a lot. Understanding. I think you can. Yeah, I know what you said, but I think some of it is snobbery.
Oh yeah.
Because when we had lockdown and people weren't allowed to go abroad, we had a lot of the more affluent people coming here with their children and loving it.
You know, we've had Labour for about a year.
That's right, yeah.
What do you reckon?
I think it's, well, as I say, my family used to be Labour, right? And I did vote for Tony Blair, but this man, Mr. Starmer, he's gone back on every single promise he made, every single one, right? Every single one. And he's only changed his mind on this winter fuel allowance thing because of his ratings in the polls are going down. So he's trying to get his votes back. But what he seems to forget is, and now I'm 65, so nearly a pension and whatnot, senior citizens have got very good memories. They won't forget that come the next general election.
The opinions that I have in regards to Reform is that I just hope their agenda is not racism. Yeah, that's all I hope for. If it is in terms of like immigration, right, and things like that, I get it. Yeah, my parents came to this country in the 60s, 70s. Sorry if I'm wrong, Mom. Sorry. Right. Well, they come from like Kenya, Nairobi. My dad come from India. My dad's no longer with us.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But all I'm going to say is when my parents first come to this country, first thing they did was they walked into foundries or factories, yeah, and places like that and looked for employment, right? And that's what they did. They went for employment. Now, I've witnessed it here now. Immigration, they come in, right? And the first thing they do is go to the job centre, right, and claim benefits. If you want to come to this country, I'm not saying don't come to this country. I'm not saying that. My parents want to come to this country. I'm saying come here, earn a few bob, contribute towards the community, contribute towards the country. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, I'm not saying, oh, you should go back to your own country and all this and all that. I'm not saying that. Yeah, I'm saying come, but work. And the government should allow, if the immigrants are not allowed to work, then the government should be kind of like allowing them to work.
Like, I think the asylum seekers in Skeg, they go about their day, they don't cause any trouble, or I've never heard of them causing any trouble. They're so polite whenever you walk past them. They all volunteer at the local church. And people say like, oh, they don't work, taxes, blah, 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 but they're not allowed to work. Like, they're literally not allowed until they've got asylum. They're not allowed to work. They want to. Like, I've seen them volunteer for so many different things. They want to work, they're just not allowed. So I think it's a bit unfair to stereotype them just because our government isn't letting them work. I just think, like, at the end of the day, we all bleed the same. So let people get on with what they're doing, let them live their life. If they don't want to live in their country, let them come here. If I don't want to live here, I expect people to not kick me out of whatever country I want to move to. So I just think at the end of the day, this might sound silly, but we live on a floating rock, just get on with it.
That last interview we did has actually given me a lot of hope. It feels good. Like, I want to end this on a high note. I want to end it with some hope, and I want to end it with some chips. One of the reasons we wanted to come to Lincolnshire was obviously because it has become a reformed county in terms of, at a local level, county council and the first devolved metro mayor for this area. It remains to be seen whether Jenkins is going to do anything positive. I don't think she's had any time yet. I also think that it's a bit of a gift to reform to have a bit of a figurehead position in the metro mayor, which, you know, comes with some responsibilities, but they can't do an awful lot. They get a nice platform and they get lots of political capital and maybe not a great deal of accountability. People are clearly willing to give reform a chance, and the reason that is because the two main parties have let people down in such a catastrophic way. Now, 14 years, 15 years of Tory failure, austerity, underinvestment. They've had a decade and a half to run our high streets and our country into the ground. They're now not even really the opposition in this country. Labour have made some pretty glaring errors in their first nearly a year in office. I mean, things like cutting the winter fuel allowance for pensioners, that is such a huge own goal. Who is advising these people? Who is around them? Winter fuel payment in the month of June was coming up on the streets. People are still talking about it, even with the U-turn. People we spoke to. So the two main parties have left this vacuum of trust, a vacuum of enthusiasm. They seem to have very few ideas that are cutting through with the general public, no matter how many reform talking points they want to hoover up or any notes they want to take from Reform's playbook. Reform is seen as this fresh, new, slightly revolutionary force. It's like we might as well give them a chance. That's what people are thinking. But doing this and seeing the diversity of identity in terms of county identity, town identity, city identity across Lincolnshire, I feel really enthused by it. And there's sort of a new appreciation for this place where I was born.